guys, from Pax Europiana here from Vienna. I'm walking on this beautiful 2nd of June through Vienna, and it's a very nice and beautiful town. I want to share some of this beauty here with you and also make some advertisement for this beautiful city. It's the hub of the Balkans and Ukraine. Unfortunately, it is run by xenophobe protectionists and people who are just talking nice about Europe. Oh, I'm here, Lansky. That's the lobbyist of Vucic and whoever. Anyhow, here unfortunately a lot of bad habits have been started because there is unfortunately talk about Europe. You can have so much here. You cannot believe you can spend your whole day on so-called pro-European events. But when you say, oh, then let's get into the EU with Kosovo, Ukraine, or with Serbia and Macedonia, Montenegro, Albania, then they say, no, no, no. We know what Europe is, and they are not Europeans. They will tell you here. And I don't like that. And if we are serious, now very serious, here, Vienna, hello, Vienna calling, then you say the situation is absolutely necessary that we are here very pro-European and that all the countries of Southeastern Europe and Ukraine, Georgia and Moldova are allowed to join the European Union and to join really in a reasonable time frame. Not somewhere in the future, not in a far distance kind of different universe. No, to join now, and by 2029 all of them in the European Union. And when you see how positive that is for Vienna, absolutely, I know this city now 30 years since I came here to study, and then always coming back from all my travels wherever I stayed in Ukraine, Kosovo, Albania or in Brussels before. This city was quite poor city when I came here 32 years ago after military service. By the way, we were very clear where the enemy was, and it's still the same. It's in the east, but we pushed the border of civilization much further to the east, and now the fight for the border of civilization and freedom. Look, actually, that's the famous building where the Austrians have famously started the World War II. Yes, that's the former Ministry of War. And I always say sorry to the Serbs that we started, but I would think also to say a bit of a sorry, or to hear a sorry, that they killed on purpose the crown prince in order to start and escalate the already very tense situation in a full-scale crisis, in order to manufacture a situation where the empires will fracture. That happened. The Russian Secret Service behind that one did not plan to have the Russia also fracturing. That was not the plan, I think, but it happened, and we will have the fall of Russia as an imperial project also ahead of us. Have no doubt, this is on the agenda, and I see that more and more people are discussing this on Twitter. The end of imperial Russia is on the horizon, and it will be good for the world. We don't need that evil empire east of the European Union. That really is a tragic historic failure. Such an ancient form of governance, imperial domination of half of Asia, and all the poor people who are living under the yoke of Putin and Russia will be free one day. This time will come. Here we see Vienna. I think it's a very beautiful city actually. It is now developing very well. This is the high-rise district. I have to walk a bit here. I think that's then the place, the meeting place where this meeting takes place. And yes, that is very good. And I will keep you obviously posted on the beauty of Vienna, but I will show you also some aspects of my life in Upper Austria during the weekend. and also keep you posted on some beautiful aspects of Austrian tradition. And I will continue to call for openness and for European Upper Austria, for European Austria, for a kind of anti-Russian consensus. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a racist. I have many friends in Russia. But you know, when they live under such kind of dictatorship, what should they do? And whoever endorses a dictatorship has to be punished as well. That's also the truth. And the name of the Russians will be forever tainted by the war since 2014. And they will have the same destiny like the Germans, who are always living with the tragic heritage of the past, and the Austrians as well, who were part of this terror regime of the 1930s and 40s. And we have to live with that tragic legacy, and we have to overcome it by historic accuracy and by repentance. And we have also to do more. I'm well aware about that one, and I'm very active on that one as well. Yes, but now the big struggle is to win against Russia, and that's of course what not all people here in rich Vienna understand. People do have already some resources here. It's not the end of the world really when you see the level of cars and when you see the level of prosperity, and then they say, oh, inflation has come, crisis. Yeah. We have full employment here in Austria. We have actually a significant lack of labor. We have wealth, you see it visible everywhere. We have a very strong position in Austria and in Germany, by the way, as well. I don't know where they see the crisis. It's possible, you know, that the crisis is looming. But our real crisis is aggressive Russia and the consequences of their economic policy with threatening us on oil and on energy. The more we are getting independent from Russia, the better for us. Yeah? So we ultimately will be much freer, and that's of course the way forward. Yeah? And I say this since years now. When I started to work with Rubik, was the first thing was very clear that we should get Russian energy independent. That was in 1999, September. I had the first meeting. You didn't have to convince me because I was already convinced, because I was the EDS chairman. Yes, very beautiful here, very amazing. This is the beach panorama here. People running, making sports. This is very nice in the evening to walk here. And this is, you see, the beauty of this town. It's really getting much richer and more developed, and I like it a lot. It's good to live here. It's nice. It's a bit boring. That is also one of the truths. But it's a good central location to go to more exciting places. Anyhow, so much excitement then I also don't want. For the war, I'm not the material for that, but I keep on my activities here for the unification of Europe, including Ukraine, and for NATO enlargement. That's of course a big issue. It's not so easy to solve, because after being 70 years brainwashed, people here are very much into neutrality. Yeah? This is of course really a major issue. You see, it's not so poor here, but I have to cross here the street. Now it's the time for that, and then to go into that meeting and to discuss the Western Balkans in the European Union. That's the focus of today. Of course, you know, that is of course Ukraine as well, and Georgia and Moldova, but we had to segment it a bit. And of course, it was already a very strong network here for Ukraine, because here is of course everybody active now in Ukraine. That's of course the main focus. And also it's Ukraine which is actually opening up Europe. We have to always see the current opportunity for enlargement is only coming because of Russian aggression. The only way to overcome French protectionism and German and Austrian xenophobia, which is basically the twin forces which are holding back enlargement since a decade, and the fear of Russia obviously and the Russian sponsored activities. is now that Russia has made a war. And this is changing everything. So Putin, in a way, indirectly, not directly, but he is the real friend of enlargement debate, because without this escalation of the war 2022, the protectionists and the xenophobes and the Russian paid assets in Germany, Austria and France would have won this debate or kept a long time further. Yeah? Now we have seen progress is possible, amazingly. We have now Sweden and Finland on the way to NATO. We have Denmark removing one by one, and now yesterday the security exemption from the EU. That's one in the historic dimension. Ukraine, of course, that decisions are still open. We have 21 more days to go for the decisions to be made, and they will be made. And then we have, of course, Croatia in the Euro. We still have a lot of, xenophobia and racism. We have no visa-free regime for Kosovo. We have no Schengen for Romania and Bulgaria. So there's really significant things to do. Yeah, it's the triple sins of Europe we can not easily overcome. Anti-Americanism, anti-Semitism, anti-capitalism. This is what Europe is basically not official, but that's the unofficial values of Europe. And that's the dark side. Of course, the European values are different. But we are in this kind of constant fight between the dark side, anti-Americanism, anti-Semitism, and of course protectionism. That's the dark side, anti-capitalism. And the bright side, of course, freedom, human rights, competition, equality, freedom, obviously freedom the most important. These are the bright sides of Europe. And in this struggle between the dark values or the dark undercurrents, the sins, the original sins of Europe, anti-capitalism, anti-Americanism, anti-Semitism, protectionism, xenophobia, and the bright sides of Europe, the beautiful sides, freedom, human rights, democracy, property rights. And now I have to stop and say hello. Hi.